Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Cisco Virtual Learning Series. My name is Ria Calao from Cisco, and I just have a few housekeeping rules before we start. For the uninterrupted viewing experience, let's make sure we have stable internet connection and close the apps that are not in use. If we can mute our microphones when we are not talking, that would be great. And we highly recommend the use of headphones so you can hear our speakers clearly. We will have a Q&A. We will open the chat box. We will open the Q&A at the end of the presentation, but you can drop your questions at the chat box at any time and I can read it out. Okay, so with that, I'd like to formally kick off the virtual learning series, and I am proud to welcome Ms. AJ Villanueva from our PLDT Enterprise Group to take us to the start of our session. AJ?
Thank you so much, Ria. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for that introduction. I'm EJ Villanueva from PLDT. I'm very pleased to be joining you here today in the Cisco virtual learning series for the banking and financial industry of PLDT Enterprise. This afternoon, we will discuss the technical know-how of how to move an organization to SD1, the powerful technology behind it, and how to simplify the management and operation of your organization's wide area network. As you know, Cisco has been a trusted partner of PLDT for many years. They are a trusted partner in deploying cutting-edge technology to design and build an automated, highly reliable, and highly scalable software-defined next-gen infrastructure. And this is done by utilizing your existing fiber network to seamlessly deliver customized digital experience to customers like you. PLDT is the forefront of this transformation in the Philippines, and together with our partner Cisco, we are building one of the most modern transport networks in Asia. With this network transformation, we're empowering enterprises and businesses like yours and address your need for speed, bandwidth, and digital services quickly and seamlessly. I believe we have a lot of participants online today. Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to learn what Cisco has in store for us this afternoon. So to start, let me introduce our first speaker, who is an SD1 specialist from Cisco, handling the ASEAN region. Let's welcome on screen Ronald Van Clunen.
Hi, good afternoon. Can everyone hear me and see me? Is it all good? I hope so. Okay, so welcome everybody, and thank you for joining this afternoon with us together with PLDT and Cisco, and to talk about SD1, how to move an organization to software-defined wide area networking with the secure, intelligent software-defined wide area network, or the cloud edge. So what we actually want to achieve from an SD1 migration is not actually a simple software upgrade on your wide area network router, and then we have SD1. It doesn't work like that. So it requires proper planning. It requires a proper strategy in your business, and to see from what are actually the needs. Why does your organization need SD1? And what is on the benefits you will get? And then with PLDT as a major player in the Philippine market, who can actually offer that as a service end-to-end to you as a customer. So if you look to different network operations, they actually have different challenges. Now, one of them is that a lot of those network changes are performed manually. And this is a research which is done with Cisco and IDC and McKinsey globally. And that is actually what the outcome was. And you see that 95% of those handlings or those actions you need to do were kind of manually. Now, if you have a large organization, and now we're focusing on the bank and the financial services industry, if you have so many different branches, you want to have some kind of automation in place, because if you do it manually, it is a risk that because of human error, maybe some mistakes are made, and that has an impact on your communication in the branch offices or in HQ or the other services your customers are consuming. So that also accounts for policy violations because of human error. Now, a typical one is security standardization. How do you make sure that the end users and your employees have the same experience at those branches utilizing the services, the IT services, something like Office 365 or other financial transaction tools you're using in your organization. And if a person moves from one location to another location, he should have the same type of experience and not creating kind of shadow IT or kind of going around the cloud to make use of those services, because it is bypassing the security policies. Now, it's not only security policies, but also quality of service, like how do you guarantee voice, video, data type of traffic over the network? Now, that also results in the OPEX, the operational expenses on the network related to visibility and network troubleshooting. How can you actually optimize that and use your skills in your organization more efficiently? So for example, if you need to troubleshoot a Wi-Fi problem, you don't want to send your Wi-Fi specialist all the time to all those different branch offices. Or if you want to troubleshoot an SD-WAN problem, is it really the SD-WAN problem, or is it something related to the applications? And then an application specialist need to be involved. So we really need to figure out and pinpoint to see how can we troubleshoot efficiently, how can we get the right resources together, and actually reduce those operational expenses from a human perspective, using different tools to help you to establish that. Now, if you look to the roadmap of digital transformation, what a lot of organizations are doing globally to enhance their businesses, one reason is to be competitive, right? Like in the financial service industries, maybe they want to join together, work together with other startups who have new ideas how to do other kind of financial transactions or integrations. Some other development, I know some banks in Europe, they do a lot of development on new type of applications. So they have a need to be flexible and a need to adopt quick in the market to compete against the others. So digitization is basically a one-of-one mapping of one application to another, or maybe from paper to make it digital. Digitalization is making use of those new tools, those new systems that have been developed. And digital transformation is really looking at your business, how you're going to utilize those new technologies and make it more efficient in your organization. So what you actually want to do, and this is actually the nirvana in operations, instead of being reactive, instead of your end users, your customers complaining to you from, hey, I cannot connect to the network, I cannot make use of this application, I cannot do my financial transaction, that's actually not so good, right? So the end user is calling your operational team, your service management. It should actually be the other way around. So we actually want to be more proactive. We want to have tools or predictive, or we want to be preemptive, and making use of technology to see from how can we actually inform the customer, say, hey, Mr. Customer, or your employee, we see that in that particular branch location, there is not enough capacity, and maybe X amount of users connecting to a Wi-Fi access point. And it's going to have an impact on the service availability of your network. Or maybe something is going to have an impact on the security of your network. And as an operational team, you should be able to identify that and actually communicate that proactively. Right? So it's a little bit similar, like you sit in an airplane and you're doing some work in the airplane, like a text editor, and they announce from, please save all your work before we turn off the system, so that you're more informed as an end user rather than they turn off the system and all your work is gone. So that's similar what we want to achieve in proactive management, but also make use of artificial intelligence and machine-based learning techniques and machine-based reasoning techniques to give that proactive aspect on managing your network end to end. Now, here are some examples in the financial services industry that also the way how businesses are operating, and especially now in this COVID times, how do you do business continuity execution, not planning, but execution, how do you do that? But also the business, the way how we do business is changing, right? Do we go all the time to a bank branch, for example? Or can we do everything online with a mobile application to do the financial transactions? And especially now, a lot of people have to stay at home. We make use of those type of applications. Do we need to go to an ATM, or is there more flexibility, like PLDT is helping to see from, okay, can we create mobile ATM banks, right? So to go to the customers, to create that flexibility. Or think about your sales force now having mobile technology in their hands and go out to the field to sign them up, for example, for an insurance. So the way how we do business is changing, and that's not only in the financial industry, because also the other vertical markets, like manufacturing, education, agriculture sector, they all have their needs with mobility, but also the wide area network connectivity needs, especially, for example, in the agriculture sector where you want to connect IoT, Internet of Things type of devices to the network. I see in Thailand, for example, they do digital farming, which then helps to do that kind of collection of data of the business processes, but that also integrates to financial services as an example. So also businesses need to adjust and to be ready for those new type of way of doing business. Now, it is important to understand your current states. So here you see 5 stages: best effort, manual, semi-automated, automated, and self-driving. That are 5 stages. And you actually want to figure out where you are with your organization, at which level you are. And you see also the attributes below. So you see automation, security, service assurance, analytics, agility, innovation, risk, and cost and complexity. Now, for each of those attributes, you actually want to know, where are you, right? Are you level 1 or are you level 5? To actually to do the baselining first, so that you can actually plan your digital transformation to take the next step, how you can actually improve it, depending on your business needs, right? From why do you need SD1, for example, for automation? Now, if you take automation as an example, in SD1 we have something called ZTP, Zero Touch Provisioning. And let's say that your organization takes over another organization, like a fusion, for example. And now you need to expand suddenly multiple branches throughout the country. How can you do that fast and accurate? If you do it manually, that takes time. But if you have a way of sending the equipment to the location, well, there is actually not a need to have persons with IT knowledge on site. They just plug in the device into the Ethernet port if it is available, or wirelessly. And remotely, all the configurations get pushed to those devices, including the security policies, quality of service policies, and that's going to enable that remote branch location. So that's an example where you then at a level 4 or a level 5 even, where actually things get improved compared to the manual step in level 2 in this slide. Now, similarly for security, similarly for service assurance, to measure the end-to-end performance your end users are having over this over your network, right? So I think that's important to figure out from where are you with the organization, so that you can do proper planning where you want to be in your organization. Now, the next slide is a similar slide like this one with more details in it. So I will not go into in depth, but you can take it with you in the handouts and have a look to it to see if you can map it to your own organization. Okay, so this is then an example which we did for a very big customer, a global customer, where you see that at certain levels, like those attributes I was talking earlier on, for example, they were not good at automation. Everything was quite manual. Did not have a lot of analytics or business insight from which applications are going with the network, which applications are performing, which one are having issues. Similar for assurance. And we had to make a plan, a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan, how actually in each of those attributes they want to focus on and actually mature, we call it CMM, capability maturity model, how they actually mature in their organization to adopt these functionality. Right, so you have to go back and look back to your own organization, which of those components are important for you and which one you want to focus on. Okay? If security, for example, is an important one, maybe because of regulations, Banco Central Filipinas put in place, BSP, for all the banks, then maybe you have to focus on the security piece. From how do you distribute all your security policies to all those different branch locations, so that you can standardize and make sure that the security compliance is in place and reduce security risks. Now, where do you start? So you have a discovery phase and a design phase. Now, if you look to the discovery phase, you need to look into the needs, and with the design phase, in the customer business value. So here's kind of a checklist. You want to see from, okay, how many number of sites do you have, which need to be enabled or need to be managed? Are applications moving to the cloud? For example, Office 365, Microsoft Office 365 is a very popular one, but also applications like Salesforce.com, SAP, or maybe persons bring their own device, BYD, if you allow that in your organization, and maybe they want to be connected to Facebook or Viber or WhatsApp. And those applications, they require kind of continuous connectivity to the network, to download videos, to download pictures, and so on. And maybe we need to look into the flow of your applications, how they go through the network now, and is there an efficient way to improve the application availability, application performance, between your end users and where those applications reside. You want to understand your current situation. Do you currently have application issues? Are your customers complaining to your IT service management groups? Do you have insight? What kind of applications are used over your network? Well, from experience, what we see is that some organizations have like 800 applications running over it, actually no clue what all those applications do, and are they still needed? Can they maybe be removed from the network so that we can free up some bandwidth? Performance is important, of course, because if applications are slow, people get irritated and not be able to use those applications. So that need to be monitored, of course. And you want to look into the operational costs. Can you reduce that in your organization, and the security compliance, as mentioned earlier on? Now, to design the customer business value, you need to understand your as-is situation and where you want to go. Is this digital transformation? So actually the storyboard. How do you create actually the business justification in your organization? And since Cisco, we actually call it intent-based networking, which is aligned with Gartner. Intent-based network is not a Cisco term. It's actually industry recognized. But with intent-based networking, what you actually do, you need to understand the intention in your organization. What do you want to achieve from a business perspective? And how are you going to translate those business intention into the technology? Where actually the technology then continually monitors, are we meeting those business intents? Like, for example, you want to do financial transactions, maybe including video communication or the way how you communicate to your end user, then is that the business intent? Then the translation will be, okay, we implement this in this network, but that need to be monitored continuously from, do we still meet those quality of service requirements end to end? That means from our mobile device over the Wi-Fi network, over the local area network to the cloud via SD-WAN, and all those components in between, do they meet those service requirements you have as an organization? For complex companies, in Cisco, we have something called Cisco Performance IT. It's also known as IT as a business, where we work together with the customer and have that discussion from, okay, what are all those components which makes the cost for running this service? How can actually SD-WAN help? It's not only for SD-WAN, by the way, it's also for data centers and local area network, to have a better understanding from what are all those operational costs, not only from hardware perspective, but also software perspective and the service management involved. And how can then the technology help? And over a 5-year span, how that new solution will help you in your ROI, your return on investment. So where actually do you need to start? You need to start actually with the applications and the application needs. And that can be mobile in most cases, but sometimes you still need a wired connectivity, maybe television screens or other kind of desktop applications which are don't need mobility, right? Like projectors or something like that, or design tools which need to be connected to a cable. So all those aspects like quality of service, voice, video, data, cloud access requirements, security requirements need to be taken into account. And that's, you need to map actually to the SD-WAN features and solutions we bring to the market. So if you look to SD-WAN real quick, at the bottom we have the transport independent fabric. So a lot of organizations still make use of connectivity for the wide area network using MPLS or internet or satellite or 3G, 4G. Long-term evolution is actually moving to 5G as well. And that network layer need to be transparent. So that is kind of the underlay where we maybe can make use of redundant connections, like you have MPLS implemented and internet was a kind of a backup solution, but you can actually utilize both. So you increase your bandwidth and also you spread your applications over both links. So now you see that we actually split the underlay with a kind of an overlay. That means we kind of split the hardware with the software. That's why it's called SD1, Software-Defined Wide Area Network. And here you see multiple components. And that actually links back to my earlier slide from where are you and what is important for you, right? For example, application service level agreements, SLAs. Is that important for your organization? Or is traffic engineering more important? The way how the applications are routed or forwarded over the network. Do you still want to let them go over your own network to the HQ via a centralized firewall to the internet? Or do you want something like DIA, direct internet access of those branch locations, which actually shortens the route and the connection to the cloud-based services like software as a service, and that all secure end-to-end. So security parameter I addressed already, and we want to see in the other components as well from what is important for you. The cloud path connections to those online services or cloud acceleration with the performance needs in your organization and so on. Okay, so that's important to understand why do you need SD1 and which of those attributes are important for you. What you need to focus on to be a success in your organization. It goes a little bit further than SD1 or wide area network only. This is intent-based networking. We actually look end-to-end. So on the left side, that are the most important end users, right? Also the IoT, the Internet of Things, which is also growing exponentially because you see an integration between the facilities, right? So who are managing the door access, the aircon systems, video camera systems, and they also want to be connected to that, to your own local area network because they need to monitor the video cameras, for example, and to see the images, but also they need to manage the up and down status of those devices. That means that you require security in those branch locations, and we call that micro-segmentation. You probably have heard about the term SD access, software-defined access, where you can actually segment all those different end users. So the segmentation is not based on IP addresses or VLANs anymore. No, it's based on identity. The type of devices, we group them together like a shell around the person or a shell around the device, tagged with who you're allowed to connect to, who are you allowed to communicate to, like a security tag. And that security tag need to remain end-to-end to which applications you communicate at the other end. So that connects, if I go through the picture, to the campus and the branch network, that is actually where your Wi-Fi and your switches are residing. And all those branch locations need to connect to HQ, typically, or to the cloud. And that's where SD1 comes into place to forward those security policies, quality of service policies to the other domains in this whole network. So via Cloud Edge, we can connect to the data center because you still have requirements of own developed applications which need to reside in the data center because of security reasons or other reasons, performance maybe for some certain applications, maybe like computer-aided design if you're using that internally. And some other applications like typically the Office 365 going to the SaaS, the software service, SFDC and other applications you want to use on the cloud. So this kind of judgment you actually need to make in your organization to see how those application flows end to end and to make sure that quality of service is measured end to end and security is pushed end to end. That's really important. Now, what is not shown in this slide are all the management tools. So you need management tools to retrieve all this information of the network, right? And that tool is then doing the artificial intelligence or the machine-based learning, and then is actually doing the validation of that intent you have in your network, if that is really met right? So that you can make proactive decisions or even preemptive decisions in your network from where is actually the issue in this network my end users are having. So this is a bit a busy slide, a journey to a secure multi-domain architecture. Okay, so I mentioned we have to start with the as-is situation to a cloud-ready central control end-to-end services or self-managing network, which translates to a reactive, proactive, predictive, and a preemptive type of operations. And here you see some examples of the architecture. And if you start on the left side, you see a lot of organizations are still siloed. So they have a separate data center and it's managed by a different group, similar for the local area network, similar for the wide area network, and it's not glued together. And the more we go to the right, you see that it gets more and more integrated end-to-end to meet those end user needs, running applications end-to-end over the network and gluing the domains together. So it's similar for the fabric. So you have hardware-centric setups of the infrastructure, and that gets more and more integrated as well between the local area network, the wide area network, and the data center network. Are we there with Cisco? We're busy with it. Some integrations found place already, and that is the future moving forward. So you will see more and more integrations between all those different domains. So here's data center, IoT. I will not go into detail here. And similar for security, you can actually map that from where are you and how do you actually move it to a self-managing or a self-driven network. Now, last but not least is also the skills in your organization. And a lot of you are familiar with ITIL. This stands for the IT Infrastructure Library. I pick up version 3, but most of you know there is already a version 4, which actually is more business aligned. It's not a major change compared to version 3. And what that means is because the new way you're going to operate, like with all those technologies like automation and not doing manual configurations, that also means that people managing that network still require the skills. So it doesn't mean they get replaced. They still need to have the knowledge about network routing and about security and the policies and quality of service and so on. But the way how you use those skills is getting changed. So they require a transformation as well. And for the persons who are familiar with ITIL, it's actually split in 5 books, right? So you have service strategy on the left, then actually how do you do your service design and your service transition. And that is actually kind of the steps you need to do with a software-defined wide area network as well, if you move from a WAN to an SD-WAN. And then once the service transition has been taken place, so that means you probably need to run parallel some WAN services before you completely migrate it to SD-WAN. And after you migrate it completely, then it is the 24/7 business operations in the service operation, which you see in the 4th pillar. Now, after that, because business doesn't stand still, right? So you start to evolve with your digital transformation journey. That means that you need continually do service management and service improvement because there is a demand on the capacity of the network. It might be impact service levels, and that need to be established. Now, PLDT is a great player in that because they are kind of part of the critical infrastructure in Metro Manila, right? With all the connectivity and all the lines. So they also have trained personnel in ITIL, in SD-WAN, black band, routing and switching to understand how do we minimize, reduce the impact on customers to do this transformation with you together. So it's all about the business and the end user experience. So that was the end of my presentation. So I will hand it back to the organizers and then have Satit covering the next sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Remind to send your questions over the chat or send them through later as we open it up to live Q&A. Okay, for our next presenter, I'd like to welcome Satit Adirek. He is our ASEAN SD-WAN Technical Solution Architect from Cisco. So Satit, when you're ready.
All right. Can everybody hear me well?
Yeah, you're fine.
All right. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Satit, Technical Solution Architect of the SD-WAN technologies. We're going to go a little deeper into the Cisco SD-WAN technology here in this session. So in this session, you expect to learn the overview and the demo of the Cisco SD-WAN a little bit here. So as Ronald mentioned, we have the Cisco SD-WAN solution, which consists of three components. The first component is it's going to be it is the hardware of the routers. We have a hardware that can located in the data centers, and we can have a virtual machine located in the cloud as well. So once you have a hardware, you can connect to any kind of transport. Uh, it can be internet, it can be broadband, MPLS, or the 4G LTE. That should be transport independence. You can pick and choose any transport. But most importantly, you have management. That that's gonna manage all of the WAN routers and the connectivities there. We call it SD-WAN controllers. And the SD-WAN controllers, we can have it on the cloud, Cisco hosted cloud, or you can have bring those controllers down to the data centers if you want to host the controllers by yourself. Yeah, that's gonna be two options for you. Uh, then talking about a little bit of the hardware piece. Uh, in PLDT portfolio, we have different different models, wide range from the smaller model, which support to up to 200 megabit per second, up to 5 gigabit per second throughput. So it is like normally you have a small site, you do this model, and the hub you can do like VH2000, VH5000 here. Right? And we support any kind of traffic pattern. Like if you want to do active, that is possible. Or if you want to do active, but you want to put in some weights, so then you can send the traffic to one of the link more than the other link because of the throughput of the link is not equal. Then we can support that. And or if you want to do the SLA tracking, like once the transport is bad or degraded, you want to switch the traffic to the other link, which is better. That is going to be automatic as well. Or you go back to the traditional way, you want it to go active and standby. That is also possible. It doesn't matter if you want to have one router at the branch or two router at the branch. We support all of the type of deployment and make sure that we have all of the topology that we're going to connect. Every single links of the fabric, it is active and active. So then you can use then you can use all links effectively. So what is actually the SD-WAN technologies? So think about the old ways or the existing ways that we are connecting the branch to the headquarter. So you have a routers at the head end and you have a router at the tail end, right? And then you buy the link from the service provider here. And you need to talk to service provider, what is the routing protocols that you want to do? What is the quality of service that you want to provide to your end users? That's going to take a lot of conversations and discussion with the service provider. Now, with the SD-WAN, we're not actually doing the network over here. We call it underlay network, but we call the network that we're gonna establish on the SD-WAN, which is we call SD-WAN overlay. Then compare with the overlay and the underlay architecture. You can see that the overlay, you only have two parts, the blue and the green. But for the underlay, you need to rely a lot of you need to rely a lot of links. You need to go hop by hop to until you reach the destination. So looking at the overlay perspective, it is very simple and easy to manage. So that's why SD-WAN controllers of Cisco is creating the IPsec tunnels between site to site. And you may wonder, like the IPsec technology, it's quite old actually, but we use the IPsec to encrypt the data, but we use a new way of creating the IPsec. In the past, you need to do it manually. You need to go to the router one by one, and you need to type in a lot of commands, and you need to put in the security key there. And if the key matches, then you can build the tunnels. But in the SD-WAN world, we don't talk about that kind of manual process anymore. So what we did is, suppose that we have a routers deployed at the data centers, campus, and branch, and maybe even small offices. Then as soon as we plug the routers into the transport and it reaches to the controllers, controllers will automatically create the tunnels between site to site for you. You don't need to go one by one. If you have 1,000 branches, it's going to be very painful. But on SD-WAN technologies, it just automatic create the tunnels for you without having to go to the routers one by one. And the tunnels that you can see here, the green tunnels here, if we zoom in a little bit, we can see that we actually encrypt the data. If you are using the internet or the broadband transport, you are not very sure that it is going to be secure or not. But because of our technologies, we encrypt the transport using the IPsec AES 256-bit. So then we can make sure that nobody from the outside of the internet can hack or can capture the packet in the internet and then steal your data, because everything is encrypted and nobody at this time can decrypt it. So then first thing we make sure that our data is secured and integrity. The second thing is I mentioned about the key between site to site. In the past, when you want to build a tunnel between site to site, you need to have a key, right? And the key here, you need to match head end and the tail end. But in this new concept of the SD-WAN, the key needs to match, yes, correct. But we will change the key 24 hours. Every 24 hours, we change the key. So that means that if the key got stolen or somebody just leaked the key to other people, that particular person cannot even come into the fabric of the SD-WAN, because at that time the key is going to change already. Then the key keeps changing 24 hours by default, but we can shorten the time or we can longer the time. It depends on the requirement. Then after the fabric is up, the side-to-side tunnels is up automatically by the controllers. Then we're gonna start sending the traffic. And before sending the traffic, we actually send the very small packet from end to end, like from part 1, part 2, and part 3. We send a very small packet. The reason behind this is the small packet will give us the loss and latency and delay and jitter uh, on particular tunnels. Then you can make sure that you can see the performance of each of the tunnels. If the tunnel of the internet goes bad, sometimes we can easily detect that, and then we can change the path. If, for example, if the MPLS is bad for some reason, and then the traffic just automatically switch to the other link by default. But then you can call the service provider and find out what is going on that MPLS link. And once it is come back, MPLS get fixed, then the traffic will switch back to the MPLS without having to do any manual configuration at all. So now you have a fabric, and the fabric can support the service level agreement, the SLA. We can detect the jitter, delay, and loss here. And then now we want to know what are the applications that run across our WAN. Then we have the DPI engine or duplicate inspection. We can have we can see applications inside the WAN. And normally people, when they see the application, they do three things. The first thing is they want to block some applications. For example, you are at the branch and you want to make sure that the, the users that at the branch doesn't consume a lot of bandwidth. So maybe you want to block some YouTube applications, or you don't want them to play the Facebook. Then you can detect the applications and block. So that particular users cannot use the application that consume the bandwidth anymore. The second is when you detect the application, you can actually select the link. You want a video conference to go to the internet because it consumes a lot of bandwidth. You don't want it to go to MPLS. That's fine. We can match the application and to the internet tunnels. Or you want to have a very, very critical application, maybe financial applications like ATM. You want it to go to the MPLS network, then that is fine. Then if you want to do the quality of service there, that should be possible as well. When you detect the voice and video application, you want to reserve the bandwidth to some certain number. That you can say to your end users that uh, the voice is guaranteed, and we guaranteed for example, like 10 users at the time. When the time that the link is congested, then you can guarantee that 10 users will it will not impact to the overall performance of the voice. Yeah, you can do like that. That is a part of the application visibility and control. Moving on, everything works fine, but now you got another requirement. That the application should be on the cloud. Maybe the developers or development teams would like to test something, and the easiest way to test the application is using the cloud infrastructure. We also do support the Microsoft Azure and the Amazon Web Service. And it is not in this picture. We also support the Google Cloud platform as well. Then your developers is deploying the apps here. Then you can have the virtual machine running on the cloud. Then you can build the fabric from the cloud to the cloud. So that is, and you can remain the single point of management from the SD-WAN controllers. And this one is the infrastructure as a service, but it also have a software as a service as well. So then the software as a service that we support is we make sure that every times that the users want to go to the Office 365, for example, we pick the best part for them. So in the scenario that you have a branch router and you have one internet link connect to the internet, and you may think that, oh, then if I want to go to Office 365, then it's because it is on the internet. Then you want to send it locally at that particular link, at the internet link, locally breakout. That is fine, but who knows? The internet providers at that location, it might not be very stable. So then we can actually detect the quality of the service provider going out directly from the branch and compare to going back to the headquarters and going up to the cloud. So which one is better? We pick that path. So at the time people use the SaaS applications, we guarantee that at every time they use, the quality of service or the quality of experience of the users is going to be the best that you have. So now let's talk a little bit about the migration strategy. So um, the migration, we have 3 steps migrations. How do we build the SD-WAN fabric? The first step is, yes, we need the controllers because controllers control everything from the SD-WAN perspective. So then we pick the controllers first. As I mentioned earlier, controllers can be hosted on the cloud or controller can be hosted on premise in the data centers. It is just a virtual machine. Right? Then after you have the controllers deployed, then you move to the data centers. And then you move to the branch. Let me give you an examples when you want to deploy the SD-WAN at the data centers. Now this is the easy network that you have at the data centers or the headquarters. You have a LAN core, you have existing WAN routers, and you want to migrate to the SD-WAN architectures. Then normally you can add the routers on the right. The blue icon is the SD-WAN routers. Then maybe you can plug into the WAN, to the LAN and to the WAN like this. And it is quite easy to do because we don't need to like put it into the inline between the LAN core and the WAN core, right? We can put it in parallel, and the SD-WAN traffic will go this way. It will not impact the the, the green color traffic that pass through the MPLS. Then we can have some traffic going to SD-WAN, some traffic going to the traditional LAN, the traditional WAN. This is the most commonly used when we want to migrate the SD-WAN at the data centers. And now we look at the branch. So the data center is done. It is ready. We do it parallel. And then for the branch, we have 2 ways to do. The first way is to replace a router at directly. So then when you replace the routers, then uh, you can uh, you can use the SD-WAN right away. That is fine. But whenever you want to use the if you want to send the traffic from the headquarter to the non-migrated branch, you just use the the underlay network, which is the traditional WAN, like this. Then two technologies can live together, but it depends on the number of sites that we already migrated to SD-WAN. So the yellow colors here will be increased from 0%, 10% up to the 100%, and then you can say that it is fully migrated to the SD-WAN. Another option that you can do is you can have it hybrid. So you don't replace the router at the branch, you just put it side by side. Then you can do the SD-WAN network on the migrated site, and you can still sending the traffic um, on the traditional WAN from the migrated site to the non-migrated site directly, right? So it has another option to do, but this option it is quite complex because we need to play around with the routing protocols a little bit. Yeah, but that is possible to do. All right, so that is about the theory behind the SD-WAN. Let me go to the actual SD-WAN controllers and show you how it can do roughly. Okay, then this is the SD-WAN controllers. Then you have, sorry, okay, you can still see my screen, right?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, all right. So this is our controllers. Then first thing that you can see, oh, we have 6 routers up and running, right? And one router is down. The name is the test pack. Yeah, I am testing the bug, but it is not released. It is not official release, so that's fine. We have application visibility that just uh, I just stated earlier. For example, we go to the DNS. I want to see which application, which IP address is using DNS at this time. So I see that, oh, this is the source IP and this is the destination IP address of the DNS. Right? So I can drill down to each of the applications and see the traffic flows of the applications. And as you can see here, this is a tunnels uh, from from the branch to the hub, and we can collect the jitter and loss, and also the latencies. And then we can say that, oh, this tunnel is good. This is by the collection of the statistics from the very small packet that we send between site to site. And it just reports to the controllers, and controller keeps the statistics and decide which link is good or not to send the traffic out. Right? So then if you have a lot of tunnels, then you can see the statistics here. Right? And if you want to see how many routers are normal, then it is okay because memory and CPU is quite okay. That's fine. But now you want to do a little bit of the zero touch provisioning or one touch provisioning, right? You can go to the template. Then we have a lot of templates here, but for the template I want to use here, it is this template. So the way that we configure the router is we just pick the serial number and then attach. Then we don't need to know a lot of configuration. We just know how to put in the IP address. So this is the IP address. Then you can just put 1.1, for example, 192.168.10.2/24. This one also another interface. Maybe you want 192.168.11.2/24. Then you can fill out the form. So the form is like it already have an explanation to you already. Then you just put in the IP address or the host name, system IP or site ID, and then that is done. Once you are done, then it will be like this. Then everything is completed. I just put the IP address and the host name in. Then I click update and next. Then we can make sure that we can check the configuration first by looking the config preview. Then we can see the config different side by side as well. But this one I haven't changed anything, so it is the same. Then I click on configure device. The controller just puts all of the configurations to all of the devices uh, uh, in your fabric at the same time. So that is going to be very easy to make some configuration changes, right? And we have another, and then everything is fine. So let's go here. So everything is fine. The fabric is up. We have a gold and we have a green color tunnels here. And then we don't have policies of the Microsoft Office 365 to break out locally yet. So without the policies, the branch just go up to the hub and then go to the Office 365, right? I'm going to show you how to configure the, we want to do the Microsoft Office 365, go up from the branch locally, right? Then we go back to the controllers, we go to policies, then we have this one. Let's take a look at that. So this is the traffic policies that we configured. It is quite intuitive that you can say that application Office 365, you want to break out to the internet. But for the rest of the internal communications, you want to go to the hub, right? So let's see what is the path at this time that it takes. Goes to the simulate flows, then we can see that if I want to go to Office 365 without having the policies apply, what is the path going up? Right. So this is a path. This is a branch. Then it goes up to the green color tunnel and the gold color tunnels to the hub. Right. Now we're gonna go to the policies. Now we're gonna go to the policies and apply the policies, activate. Then the policy get pushed to the controllers, and let's wait a little bit of while, maybe just 10 seconds. Then everything get applied. Yep. So it is successful. Then we can do a simulate again, do simulation again. You can see that now the traffic gets breakout directly from the branch. So if you think about, if you have like 1,000, 2,000 branches, and you need to do it manually, uh, when the time that it is like you're using the traditional WAN, it's gonna take a lot of configuration changes from the branch. But in the SD-WAN, if you have like the SD-WAN controllers, you can just change the policies and direct the Office 365 just going breakout. But once the internet at the branch goes down, then you go back to the data centers and go out from from the data centers instead. That is quite easy, and it is quite powerful when you want to make a change. I think I have another a use case that you may want to see it is beneficial for you. This is called application aware routing. So again, we have a hub, headquarter, and we have a branch, and we have a delay generator here. So in the normal scenario, the delay is 0. Then we want to send the ATM application, for example, going to the private 2 color here to the branch. But for the rest of the traffic is going to the private 1. Then I want to generate the delay on the private 2 color here. And let's see if the application, the ATM traffic get switched to the other link. So this is a setup. So let's take a look at the policy first. So the policy is okay. It is quite simple. You just go to the policies and then you just match the application samples. You want to match the file transfer, ICMP and the IPUF, and then you want to select the color which is the private 2. So it is the bottom tunnel. And you want to also check the SLA as well. If the SLA is beyond what we set earlier, then it's gonna switch over to the other link. Then let's take a look at the SLA configuration here. SLA, we configure the delay if it is more than 200 milliseconds delay. That is not acceptable for us anymore. Then switch to the other link. Right? Then I'm gonna go and generate the traffic here. On the left is the servers, on the right it is the client. Right? So and now I'm starting sending the traffic. The bandwidth of the link it is 10 meg. Then it is fine. We can have a 10 meg throughput here. And then let's see the upperware routing how it works here. So now I keep pinging to get the response time between site to site. It is all good. Then I go to the WAN emulator. I want to generate the 400 milliseconds delay onto the link. Then if you can see here that the link, let me just stop here a little bit. Okay. Then the link goes up. The response times goes up from 1 milliseconds to 400 and even 800 milliseconds because going forward and back. Then it is quite bad. But suddenly, for it takes about let me see, about 7 pings. It changed from 400 milliseconds. It goes down to 1 millisecond. Then, in terms of the customer's experience, it is just nothing because it just changed the response time goes up and down. Just a very short period of time. Then now I think that now the traffic goes to the private one color already. Then let me send the traffic. Then we have 20 megabit per second throughput. Now because it is 20 megabit per second throughput, then it goes to the private one already. Right? Then we can disable the delay, change to none, and then with a little bit of time, uh, we can we can switch back. So now it is 20 megabit per second, and then just a little bit of time, the traffic will switch back to 10 megabit per second without having to have the engineer to control or change the configuration at all. So this is the how like application aware routing works, and we can do the SLA for specific application as well. If you don't want to switch over all of the applications to the other link, because each of the application requires a different delay and jitter characteristics. Right? So in summary, um, as Ronald mentioned earlier, so we have many kind of features on the SD-WAN that can help you, uh, you know, control the WAN connectivity much better than it is used to be. So we support zero touch provisioning. You can select the transport, either MPLS, broadband, or cellular. That's fine. We can support any kind of routing protocol. Uh, Security like application blocking, segmentation, COS, multicast, and application visibility traffic engineering up to the cloud. And everything is managed here in the SD-WAN controllers, single pane of glass. So that should be it about the technology deep dive for the SD-WAN. Just a little bit of it. Yeah. So hope you get the concept, and maybe we can dig down further. Back to you, Maria.
Okay, Satit, we missed you on camera. I think your camera wasn't on, but
Oh,
thank
really?
you. Yeah,
Okay, let
that's
me
fine.
turn it
You
on
can
right
turn
now.
it on so everybody else can see you.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so now I will probably open the floor for Q&A. If you can just unmute yourself if you have a question. But I do have some questions already that's been posted on the chat room and directly to me. Okay, let's probably start out with those that were sent in. Satit, a question on how do you monitor, let me just go back to the question. How can you help monitor LTE and the links, and who does that? Is there a way that SD-WAN can monitor those links?
Yeah. We monitor based on the tunnels. So normally when we build the fabric, we build the tunnel side to side, and then after that we send the link, very small packet, to send it across the tunnel. That means we can keep the stats, loss, jitter, and delay. It doesn't matter whether you have LTE or you have the MPLS or the broadband. Whenever we build the tunnel, we can monitor the link by ourselves without having to go to the service provider and say, hey, I think this link might be bad. I don't have evidence, but I just think about that. Yeah, it is no longer that anymore because we have the monitoring system by ourselves.
Okay. And how can you secure SD-WAN knowing that it's in the cloud? Because most of our banking customers and FSI have been so used to having on-prem Some of their questions pertain to the security, being that it is on the cloud.
Okay. On the cloud, it has two aspects actually, the controllers aspect and the data plane aspect. So if you talk about, if you're thinking about hosting the controller on the Cisco cloud, then the controller itself, it is on the cloud. The routers needs to register or to send the statistics up to the cloud. That is the channel that we establish. It is very, very secure. We do the certificate, we do a certificate authentications both end, right? Controller authenticate the routers, the router authenticate the controllers, and then we do everything encrypted. Uh, then the control plane, it is secure. Data plane is the same. We have the IPsec, as I said, the IPsec with the AES 256-bit encryption. That is the most secure encryption technique at this moment. So we make sure that nobody can just grab the packet and then do some kind of hacking there, right? So every communication through the internet, it is secure and it is encrypted. So you don't need to worry about that.
Okay, just want to check if anybody on the chat has posted or you want to speak up. Just please unmute yourself. And while we're waiting, there's two more last questions that I have. Does Cisco SD-WAN perform packet-based load balancing? If so, why or why not?
Okay, that's a question that I have been asked very often. So yeah, so the per packet based load balancing, we actually don't support. And the reason behind that is if you think about, if you have two links, MPLS and internet, right? Each of the link has a different characteristics. MPLS is it is bandwidth limited, but it is so stable, right? But for the internet, it is very high bandwidth, but it is not that stable. It might have a delay or jitter, right? Then if you do per packet based load balancing, you send one packet to the MPLS, you send another packet to internet. Then you keep doing like this. Then the order of the packet, it might be misordered because the MPLS might be reached first, maybe two packets reach first. Internet, you need to go across some of the network from the provider. Maybe it comes later. Then the hard work is going to be the application that receive the packet need to reorder it. So that's why Cisco said that maybe I don't want to do like that. I want to do a flow-based load balancing. So if it's a flow-based, so the traffic is going to the same path, the application at the headquarter doesn't need to reorder it anymore.
Okay, that's it for the chat in questions. Maybe I'll check in with PLDT if there's anything that came through. Joyce, anything came through you? Oh, okay, we have one on the chat. Other than budget constraints in migrating to a new technology, what are the general steps that we need to consider? We do have Cisco infrastructure in place. So I guess for Ronald, we had this question earlier this morning. How do companies move and transition into disruptive technology like SD-WAN? So you can share some thoughts, Ron?
Yeah, and I can combine it with Satit's as well, right? So first of all, thank you that you're using Cisco as an infrastructure. Of course, that's very good to hear that, and it's all our responsibility, right? Also to help you to move to the new software-defined wide area network architecture. So I think Satit had a perfect picture showing actually from how you built the two blue boxes. He was showing us blue boxes, which was the SD-WAN equipment next to your existing wide area network infrastructure. And those blue boxes that were actually connected to the local area network and were connected to the wide area network as well. Now, and based on Satit's demo, and actually he can explain it much better than I do, But it is with the application-aware routing, you can set the policies, right? From how do you send that application traffic, either via your normal way, your legacy, or how you call it, your normal way, how you do your wide area network connectivity, or do you send it via the SD-WAN, so that you have a gradual way of moving whole network. So you don't have to turn and switch, right? I go from the old situation to the new one. No, you can do that step by step. I hope that that answers your question. Sati, do you have something to add to that?
This is my experience. So it is not like because the question said that without the budget constraints, right? For example, if we don't have a budget constraint, normally people use the MPLS at this time, and people just wants to just get a feel of the SD-WAN technologies. If you want to be like conservative, you may remain the MPLS links at your branch. And then you may add another internet links just to use it for 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 seeing that if the internet links is beneficial to you, and considering maybe reducing the MPLS, or maybe decreasing the throughput of the MPLS. Yeah, that should be like gradual steps that you can. But for the architecture, the migration strategy that I presented, so you can run it side by side, traditional WAN and SD-WAN. Then it can eventually back up each other if you have it set up properly. Then it's just to guarantee that whenever something is wrong or misconfiguration on the SD-WAN side, then you can fall back to the traditional WAN. Yeah, that is like it needs to be gradual migration there.
And if you look to the attributes, do you think that automation, that will be kind of the first step, right? What we see at other customers. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's confirmed in the chat box as well, Maria.
Yeah. So just waiting for some. They might just have 1 or 2 minutes to type in their questions, maybe, or open their mics to ask us the last few questions before I turn it back to AJ. Okay. I guess that was a fast 2 minutes, sorry, but I guess so to return back the time to you, I'll probably hand it off to AJ now to close off our session.
Thank you, Ria, and a big thanks to our partner speakers, Ron and Satit from Cisco, and to our valued enterprise customers for spending your time with us this afternoon. I'd also like to acknowledge, guys, the PLDT Brand Equity Management team for arranging for this virtual learning series such as this, no? And to our lovely host, Ria of Cisco, maraming salamat. I know you've learned a lot today, as did I, and that this session give you more insights and directions on how to set up, manage, and make your network more agile. This transformation will not only increase your network's capacity in anticipation of data traffic explosion, but it will also make your network more intelligent and secure for more tailor-fit digital services to meet your business-specific needs today and in the future. So thank you once again to everyone who stayed with us this afternoon as we make more informed and prudent decisions and make these investments worthwhile. Please feel free to touch base with me or to your PLDT relationship managers for any questions regarding this session. So future-proofing our network starts today and starts with you. Marami pong salamat. It's truly an honor to be with you during this time. Again, stay safe and stay healthy.